You've come to this video to learn more about the First Amendment, freedom of speech. So I think it's important to talk about this. I've come to this because of studying the YouTube terms and conditions and wanting to make sure that I don't violate YouTube's terms and conditions. YouTube and any other platform is not the government. So let's take a look at the First Amendment. And here it is. Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting free exercise thereof or abridging the freedom of speech or of the press or of the right of the people to peaceably to assemble and to petition the government for a redress of grievances. So here we have several things going on: freedom of religion, freedom of speech, freedom of the press, and the right for people to peaceably assemble and protest in order to petition and speak out against the government because they don't like something. They don't like a law, or they don't like what the government is doing. So in other countries that don't have this, some other countries, there is no rights like this, okay? If you say something against the government, you can be arrested or worse. Let's talk about freedom of speech. The government itself is not supposed to hinder your freedom to say whatever you want and wherever you want. All right. Now, you can get in trouble with your speech, and I'll talk about that in a second. The beauty of this is that you can criticize the government. You can speak out against the government because in America, the government is by and for the people. That's the way it's supposed to be. All right. It's supposed to prevent tyranny and dictatorship. Now, platforms are publicly or privately owned social media platforms the government? No, they're not. So let's go back to the government. Let's talk about an example of the government violating freedom of speech. When Elon Musk bought Twitter, he found a government portal where government could go in and censor people and try to control the narrative. And they are not supposed to do that. It's actually fascism if the government is coercing private companies to carry out their evil deeds. Okay, that's part of the definition of fascism. A company does it voluntarily or not. I'm not going to get into that. Of course, if they're forced to do it, that is definitely fascism. But if you've ever seen the movie Schindler's List, Schindler risked death or punishment from Hitler's government by protecting Jews in his company. You know, he had about 120 Jews there, and all of them were running one machine. So he protected them. He knew what was going on. If they ever found out, of course, you know, Schindler would have been probably put in a concentration camp as well. Private companies are not supposed to carry out the dirty deeds of the government. All right. Now, let's talk about YouTube platforms, their terms and conditions, and other platforms. Every platform, private or public owned company, has the right to censor your speech. Why? Because they're not the government. What if, not really violating their policies of hate speech or whatever, but they're censoring your political opinions? Do they have the right to do that? Yes, they do. They do have the right to do that. What can you do? Well, you can stop being a customer. You can stop supporting them. Okay? Because if you remain a customer and you don't like what they're doing, then you can just get off their platform. You have the right to do that. Nobody's forcing you to be a customer. What brought me to this? Oh yeah, I want to say one other thing. Freedom of speech is ugly. Okay? There's two other things I want to say. If you look at X, which is really the kind of the most, quote, free speech platform, although they have their terms and conditions as well, It's not so pretty. Okay. Even quote unquote hate speech is free speech. All right. But the government cannot stop you from saying hateful things. An individual platform can. It's not really pretty all the time. What brought me to this, I come out of Christianity. Okay. I'm an ex-Christian. I still believe in Jesus, but not in the traditional or the standard Christian way. All right. And I have had some bad experiences within the church. If I get on YouTube and I start being hateful and bashing Christians and bashing the religion and saying hateful things about it, well, that's going to be a violation. So I have to be careful what I say if I want to make videos. There are several religions that, in my opinion, are very bad, but I'm not going to name those, and I'm not going to bash them, and I'm not going to bash people and say hateful things about people that are in these religions. Here's the thing that's a challenge for me is remembering that everybody is in a different place of learning. Everybody is in a different place of experience. And I can't, or I shouldn't be hateful and judgmental towards those people and insult people and stuff like that. It doesn't accomplish anything. Platforms don't want their messages coming from them to be a bunch of hate. Okay. They want it to be positive because it's a business. All right. So what brought me to this is I wanted to make a channel to say some things. And then I read the terms and conditions and I realize I have to be very careful with what I say and how I say it. This is an educational video. Look, the Constitution, again, it says, let me just share it one more time, that we have freedom of religion. The government is not supposed to hinder your free exercise of worshiping or praying or doing whatever you want, being a part of a religion. Okay. But with freedom of speech, I can use my freedom of speech to speak out against a religion. Not necessarily can I do that on this platform, because if I break their rules, then they're going to give me a mark and then they can kick me off the platform and ban me from the platform. So what are the limits of freedom of speech? Anywhere. You have the ability to make a threat with your mouth, with your speech. Don't do that, because this is where FAFO comes in. That is where, let's say an example, threatening the president. You're going to get a visit from the Secret Service or the FBI. So I think that's quite clear. Don't make threats, because what will happen is you will lose your freedom of speech. If you keep doing that, you may end up in jail where nobody can hear you. So look, my channel is going to be a mixture of my own spirituality, telling you about what I've been through, where I am now, not organized religion, not promoting any other religion, and not bashing any other religion. But it is going to be about politics, things that are going on in the government, and my opinions about that. And also, I'm going to be sharing my experiences as someone who was once a Christian as a young man, left that, just lived a regular life for quite a while. And then later on, I had a spiritual awakening. First, I had a political awakening. Then years later, I had a spiritual awakening, which came from a mystical experience with the divine. And then later on, I learned how to have out-of-body experiences. It's not belief anymore. It is about what I know. I have experienced myself as pure consciousness outside of my body in other realms. So I hope this video has been helpful, and I do thank you for watching. And if you found this helpful, please like, subscribe, and share. You have a great day.